to kind of talk about the journey that I took to get to taking the NCE, things that I feel like you should know before taking the NCE, stuff that I found helpful, and things that I didn't really find that helpful. I'm really gonna try to make this like 10 minutes or less. So if I'm talking really fast, just leave questions in the comments and I will answer them to the best of my ability, or kind of just point you into the direction of somebody who might be able to answer them a little bit better. So to start, I'm gonna talk about the registration process. So to register, I just went to the NBCC website. Registration was really easy. As long as you have an account, just put in email address, name, address, all that kind of stuff. And then you're able to just register. You pick the spring or the fall if you want to take it in person or online. I chose to take it online just because like I was in the process of moving and just had a lot of going on in my whole little personal world, so I wasn't really able to take it in person. So after you register, I had about maybe 4 or 5 months from the time that I registered to when I actually took the test. So I registered about a month or 2 before I actually graduated. There were like a good amount of people in my class who decided to take the test before graduating. But like I said, I had a lot going on, so I decided to wait. But if you're somebody who really wants to graduate and have your license, go straight into working, then that's something you really want to plan for. Personally, I liked having like a little bit of a break to be able to just dedicate a good amount of my time to studying. So just really think about what's going to work best for you. After I registered, I bought the Encyclopedia of Counseling. So you probably know people talk about this purple book. Rosenthal is the author, and for me this book was kind of overwhelming. As you can see, it's pretty thick, and the material is it's dense, and for me it was a lot to take in. I will say, like, it goes over every area that you need to know for the test, but just the way that the material is presented, for me, it wasn't my style of learning. So like I said, it goes through like human development, social and cultural diversity, ethics, research, diagnosis, testing, all that stuff it goes over. But for me, I felt like it was all over the place. So within each section, like for example, there might be a question on like Freud, and then Kohlberg, Erickson, back to Freud, jump to Rogers. It was just all over the place. And I like to take notes while I study, and it's really hard for me to take notes if things are not all together. So I would have preferred if it would have just went through each theorist one at a time and then moved on to the next one. But this does have, I want to say, like over close to 1,000 questions. And with all of those questions, there's an explanation for why the answer is what it is. But this wasn't my favorite method of studying. So besides using the purple book, because I did work my way through the whole book, I also used Dr. Pam Turner's videos, and I'll link her somewhere in this video. But I found her videos probably like 3 weeks before I took the actual test, and she was really helpful. She goes through all the theorists, she goes through groups, she goes through family, career, all the things that you need to know, she covered in depth. And I feel like her videos are really helpful in me actually passing the test on my first try. And honestly, I wish I would have found her in the beginning of my studying, but better late than never. So yeah, I would definitely say you should check out her videos, because she's really great. And she also offers like one-on-one tutoring. I didn't do that. I just used what she put on YouTube for free. But if you feel like you need that extra one-on-one attention, that might be for you. Speaking of like free, because I just mentioned YouTube, there are a lot of questions on Quizlet. So Quizlet, I found a lot of Rosenthal's questions in pre-made study sets. So I didn't make my own. I just used ones that other people had already made. And besides Rosenthal's questions, there's a lot of other study material just from people like working their way through their grad program. Besides Quizlet, I also just typed in like NCE practice tests, and you'll get a decent amount of free ones, but the ones that I really liked, honestly, I paid for them. So Hellwig's study guide, that one, the study guide, it goes over a good amount of material, and it's written like a study guide, so it's not super in-depth. But what I liked was the practice test that I got with it. So there was a CPCE practice test and an NCE practice test. And how I ended up doing on those practice tests is how I did on the actual exam. How he wrote the questions is very, very close to how the exam is actually written, because the exam, the majority of the questions are application. So it's not gonna do you a whole lot of good if you just memorize like facts. Like if you just memorize like, oh, Freud had the id, superego, and the ego. That's not gonna be super helpful if you don't know what those are, if you don't know what goes on in his stages, if you don't know what goes on in Erickson's psychosocial stages, if you don't know your career theorists and how to really identify who believes what or who came up with what career assessment, then you're not going to do well on the exam. But those practice tests are a really good way of kind of measuring how your studying is going and what you're retaining. I did wait to take those until maybe 4 or 5 days before the exam. I didn't take those early in my studying. I waited because I wanted to see, okay, how am I doing? And what do I really need to focus on in the next couple days before I take the test? So yeah, so Hellwig, I would definitely recommend looking into that. It's about like $60. And Rosenthal's book I got for maybe like $40 something on Amazon. I also ended up buying like his audio tapes, which I didn't like a whole lot. I tried them, but they weren't really for me. But some people are really audio learners, so if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely try to get like the MP3 version if you can find it, because I got the CDs and I don't have like a Walkman. The only place I could listen to it was in my car because my car has a CD player. So definitely look for the MP3s if you're gonna go for the audio version of Rosenthal's studying. Besides that, I didn't really find a whole lot of other videos on YouTube that were helpful. Yeah, so I was kind of thinking of making my own like study guides, not study guide, but videos, just because everyone has their own way of learning and their own way of remembering things. And if my way is helpful for somebody, then I definitely want to help other people who are trying to enter the counseling profession, because obviously there's a need for mental health professionals. And if we can get more people in the field who are competent and know what they're doing, and a greater diversity than what we have in that field right now, then I think that's something that we should definitely be doing. So I will be posting those hopefully like over the next week or so. Let's see, so registration, studying. When I took the actual test, like I said, I took it at home, and that process was really easy. I literally took it like at my table, and all I had to do was take a picture of like my ID, take a picture of my workspace, and kind of show it to the proctor before they sent me the test. And then they just sent me the test and I was able to take it. And they do offer like a 15-minute break. So after you get to that 100 question mark, they give you the option of taking a break. I chose to just keep going because I didn't want to take a break and have to refocus myself and all of that. And then 200 question, you're done, submit it. Maybe like 10-15 minutes after you submit it, you should get an email that lets you see your results if you pass or fail. So yeah, the only thing I will say, it is technology, so if you're taking it at home, be prepared for something to happen. When I was taking it, the Pearson VUE app, it closed randomly. And I was freaking out a little bit, but after like 10-ish minutes, the proctor was able to restart it, and I just picked up where I left off at, and I was able to finish the test like real easy. Yeah, so just be prepared. If you're taking it at home, something might happen. You can't talk to yourself. You can't read the question out loud. Even though you're at home, if you're by yourself, they're not gonna let you do that. So if you do feel like you need to read the question out loud, that's something you need to submit before you take the test, asking for like accommodations. Yeah, because they're kind of strict on that. Other than that, I will say the test, it isn't as bad as I was making it out to be in my head. I think I was picturing it as this just terrible test, that all the questions were going to be super hard. I didn't know if I was going to pass. I was scared I was going to fail. But it isn't that bad. The people who write the questions are counselors. The people who write the questions have been where we have been. And if I'm being like real honest, like this is stuff that we know. This is stuff that we do. This is stuff that we did throughout our internship. This is stuff that we're doing with our clients on a day-to-day basis. So there isn't, like, yeah, that anxiety is gonna help you, it's gonna push you, make you wanna study harder, make you wanna make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do. But at the same time, the test is passable. The test has a pretty high pass rate. And even if you don't pass on your first try, it's not the end of the world. I mean, if I didn't pass, I probably would have felt like it was the end of the world, and I probably would have been crying and all of that. But after I kind of worked through those emotions, I would have just studied harder, and hopefully on the second, third try, however many tries it takes, you just keep pushing yourself and you keep getting better and you pass. Because that's the goal. You made it through grad school, you made it through your internship, you made it to taking the test. And that's an accomplishment, because grad school is not easy. Internship definitely wasn't easy. So take a second to really acknowledge how far you've come. Take a breath and you'll be fine. Because the test isn't the monster that I feel like we're making it all out to be. But yeah, so if you feel like there's anything that I didn't cover that you have questions about, leave them in the comments. If you feel like those study videos that I was talking about might be helpful, leave that in the comments. Even if you don't leave it in the comments, I'll probably still make the videos. So thank you so much for kind of just sticking with me through this video and watching. I hope it was kind of helpful, and I will definitely see you next time. Thanks.